It was the kind of crisp autumn morning that made you want to linger on the porch with a second cup of coffee. I was just about to do that when I noticed the silence in natural and absolute. My 10-year-old twins, James and Ellie, were nowhere to be seen. They were always in the backyard by 8 a.m., bouncing basketballs or chasing the dog, but that day, not even the dog barked. I called for them once. Then again, my voice echoed through the neighborhood like a hollow alarm. No response. Panic bloomed in my chest like ink in water. I dialed my husband, Greg, at work. "They're gone," I whispered. "What do you mean gone?" "They're not here. I've checked the backyard, the treehouse, even the basement." I think my voice cracked. I think someone took them. Within minutes, the police were at our doorstep. Officer Ramirez took my statement with a professional calm that only slightly masked his concern. "You're sure there's no sign of them leaving on their own?" he asked. "I know my children," I said. "They wouldn't just disappear. Not without telling me. Not like this." The neighborhood security cameras were limited. Our homeowners association, better known as the, had long opposed installing more surveillance, citing aesthetics and community feel. I had always thought that was nonsense, but I let it slide for the sake of peace. That would be my first mistake. As the investigation progressed, small things began to unravel. A neighbor down the street, Mrs. Callahan, mentioned seeing a black van parked near our driveway around 7:30 that morning. It wasn't familiar, and it didn't belong to anyone on the block. I demanded to see footage from the HOA's only community monitored camera, the one facing the entrance gate. At first, the HOA board stonewalled me, citing data privacy and internal policy. That was my second mistake, assuming they had any legitimate authority over me. "I need access to that footage," I told the HOA president, Ronald Claymore, during an emergency board meeting that afternoon. It could help locate my children. Claymore was a smug, gray-suited man with a tight smile and thinner patience. "We understand your concern, Mrs. Alder." "It's Judge Alder," I snapped. "United States District Court. And I'm not asking." The room fell silent. You could hear the tension crack like thin glass. It was as if a curtain had dropped, revealing just how uncomfortable these petty suburban tyrants were with real authority. Claymore blinked. "With all due respect, Judge Aldor, there are protocols we must follow." "Then I suggest you follow them quickly," I said, rising, "before this becomes a federal obstruction case." Within an hour, I had the footage, and what I saw chilled me to the bone. At 7:26 a.m. The HOAS maintenance van pulled up outside my home. Two men, both wearing the HOAS navy blue jumpsuits, stepped out. One of them rang the doorbell while the other wandered around the back. Moments later, I saw both James and Ellie being led toward the van, calmly, as if promised something harmless. The van drove away with them inside. I rewound it 4 times, each time hoping I was wrong. But there it was. My children had been taken by members of my own neighborhood's governing body. I immediately called Ramirez. An arrest warrant was issued by sunset. But when the police returned to the HOA office the next morning, the building was empty. Computers gone. Files, even the front sign had been removed. That was when I knew this wasn't some tragic misunderstanding. This was premeditated. 3 days passed in a blur. The FBI joined the case after I pulled strings one benefit of being a federal judge. I told them everything about the van, about Claymore, about the HOAS sudden disappearance. And about the subtle threats I'd received over the years. You see, I'd clashed with the HOA before, not over something minor like mailbox design, but bigger issues like discriminatory housing policies they tried to hide in dense language. I'd called them out, legally and publicly. I'd embarrassed them, but I thought it was over. I was wrong. On the 4th day, a break came. A rental cabin was found upstate, paid for in cash by a man matching the description of one of the kidnappers. Surveillance showed 2 children inside. The FBI raided it within the hour. James and Ellie were alive, terrified, dehydrated, but alive. They ran into my arms as I arrived at the hospital, sobbing into my coat. I dropped to my knees, holding them so tightly I feared I might hurt them, but they didn't want me to let go. They told us you were sending us away, James said through tears. They said the HOA was taking care of it. Ellie nodded. They said you didn't want us anymore. My stomach turned. Claymore and his group had tried to manipulate my children to turn them against me. But why? Later, it became clear. One of the HOA board members, Trevor Dinks, was under investigation for wire fraud and illegal property seizures. And it wasn't random. It was based on a ruling I had handed down a year prior, one that cost his company millions in restitution and penalties. Claymore, Dinks, and 2 others had plotted to teach me a lesson. The plan was to make it look like a custody issue gone wrong. They would rescue the kids, then anonymously tip off a family services agency, claiming I was an unfit mother. A messy smear campaign topped with parental sabotage. What they didn't count on was me and what I was willing to do to get my children back. The trial, when it came, was public and vicious. Every news outlet covered it. The defendants squirmed under cross-examination. The jury deliberated less than 2 hours. Guilty. Claymore and Dinks were sentenced to 30 years in federal prison without parole. 2 others took plea deals in exchange for testimony and received reduced sentences. The HOA was dissolved by court order. Every homeowner in our community received full financial transparencies and restitution where appropriate. As for me, I took a brief leave of absence from the bench. I needed time for myself, for James and Ellie, for healing. But I came back stronger. Because sometimes justice isn't just about the law. Sometimes it's about reminding people that power doesn't come from a title or a board vote or a petty policy about grass height. It comes from standing your ground and protecting what matters most, even if it means tearing down everything in your path.